Alrighty. So we have Robert Whittaker versus Kelvin Gastelum. So Kelvin Gastelum replacing Paulo Costa. That was a fight I was really excited for. I was looking forward to see how Paulo Costa was going to come back and if he was going to be able to utilize the smaller octagon. But yeah, we got Kelvin Gastelum, who's a similar matchup. So Rob's Rob was preparing for a similar matchup, so we'll see how he goes here. Shouldn't have to change the game plan too much. Alright, so for Kelvin Gastelum, he is a very small 185er, really should be fighting at welterweight. And Robert Whittaker, in turn, has a 3-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. So Robert Whittaker, he's a really good fighter. He's 10-1 at middleweight since moving up. His only loss is to Adesanya, and we all know how good Adesanya is, especially when you fight him on the feet. But yeah, so let's have a look at the striking of these two. For Kelvin Gastelum, he's a southpaw. That's pretty much the only change against him and Paulo Costa, and also the fact he's a little bit smaller. He likes to be on the front foot, same as Costa, and he's probably more effective when he's countering, I'd say. He can take the front foot and start pressing the action, but in my opinion, I think he's better when he's pressing the action, but also looking for that slip 1-2 or the pull 1-2, which is definitely his best punch. On the other side, Robert Whittaker, he has that karate style. He's very feint heavy, likes to feint quite a bit, stay on the outside, and then blitz in with combinations or a high kick that's hidden behind his right hand. He likes to be in and out with his hands, so when he's, going for his offense, he will, blitz. Also, Robert, he has a nice jab from the hip. He throws it from the hip. The thing Gastelum, I think, is going to look for, though, is look to slip that jab and land his 1-2. That's probably his best weapon, in my opinion. He's got very fast hands for a 185er, so he gets that 1-2 off very quick. And Rob's hand does drop after he throws the jab. Kind of predictable. When he throws it, the hand's going to drop behind it, so his defense is going to be a little bit, is going to be a little bit compromised. So unless he can move his feet out of the way, he's going to be open for that 1-2 from Kelvin Gastelum, because that's what he's going to be looking for when Rob pops the jab out. One thing about Gastelum, though, is he doesn't check leg kicks. I think Whittaker's going to look for the outside low kick. Since they're in orthodox versus southpaw, he's going to have to use the lead leg to get to the outside low kick. But he did use that quite a bit in the Darren Till fight, so I could see him definitely throwing it in this fight. Also with Whittaker, as I talked about before, he hides that right high kick after his right hand. And he catches so many people doing that because after you block the right hand, your hands are going to, habitually drop just a little bit. Just because you're not expecting offense coming from his right side again. Because people don't usually double up on their power hands. Someone's not going to throw a right hand and then throw a right uppercut or a right hook. So yeah, that's how he catches a lot of people with that, and I can definitely see Kelvin getting caught with it because Kelvin primarily uses head movement to avoid strikes, so it's all good and well when you slip that right hand of Whittaker's, but then once you slip it and your head's over, to your left or whatever, you're right in line for that head kick. So I can definitely see that catching Kelvin throughout the fight. But yeah, with Whittaker, he does bite on feints. Kelvin doesn't really feint that much. Well, he doesn't have the most diverse range of feints. He kind of just feints the 1-2 or whatever. He's either going to throw it or he's not. He doesn't mix it up too much. So yeah, but Whittaker does bite on feints. So if he can get him biting really hard and then follow up with the 1-2, I guess that could land. But yeah, he just doesn't mix up the feints enough to catch Whittaker off guard, in my opinion. Alright, so for the grappling in this one, we saw Kelvin use a lot of his grappling a lot of his wrestling in his last fight against Heinisch. He doesn't usually do that. Normally he's more uses his wrestling defensively, and he has a good sprawl on the double leg in the open. More of Rob's takedowns, when he does look for them, do come from the body lock or in the clinch. Once he does get the body lock, he'll go for the outside leg trip. Once he gets on top, he's looking for slashing elbows on top. And then he will take the back if the opponent turtles. Kelvin gives his back pretty much every single time he tries to get back to his feet, so I can definitely see Rob looking for that if he does choose to use his grappling. Another thing Rob does is that he doesn't really connect, or he doesn't really commit to his wrestling all the time. So if he shoots for a takedown, or if it looks like he's shooting for a takedown, sometimes he will just bail on the takedown attempt and look for a right hook or a left hook in the pocket once he's closed the distance. But a lot of the time he doesn't really commit to these takedown attempts. Some things that Gastelum does on the mat, which can get him in trouble, is that he's really easily controlled on the fence. Obviously, he's going to be giving up the strength advantage to a lot of these guys. He doesn't really battle for underhooks as well. That doesn't really help him. Also, he doesn't hand fight when opponents have the body lock on him. And he will also often give up dominant position on the mat. I think he's just too relaxed. He's too overconfident, in my opinion, on the mat, and he gets into trouble a lot on the mat. Alright, so how these guys win. For Kelvin, how he wins a lot of his fights, he's got good hands, he's got fast hands, he's got good counters. He's got a granite chin that helps him a lot. He's very, very durable. He's got good cardio. He can last 5 rounds. We've seen it before, even at elevation. So I think he has very good cardio. He has good get-ups as well. But yeah, sometimes he can get himself in trouble against elite grapplers. Alright, so for Whittaker, he has good pacing, good cardio as well. He has a nice jab, really hurt Cannonier with the jab, which I can see being a big weapon here as well. He's good accuracy and timing of the head kick. I think the only person he hasn't landed it on, I'm not sure if he landed it on Till, but I think the only person recently that he hasn't landed that combination on is Adesanya, and Adesanya's got very good head movement, upper body movement, and also just awareness of the combinations Whittaker's going to throw. He's got very high fight IQ on the feet, and he's a high level striker. Also, Whittaker has very high fight IQ. He makes reads on the fly, adjusts his game plan accordingly, helps him win a lot of his fights, and he's also got great anti-wrestling. Also, the stance that he employs helps him out a lot, because it's very hard to get onto his hips because he's using that karate stance. He's got the lead leg kind of pretty much outstretched, so his hips aren't, fully available. They're also side on, so it's harder for the opponent to wrap just close the distance enough to get a grip around his waist or his hips. So how these guys lose fights. For Whittaker, it's the striking tendencies that we discussed before. Also, chin, a little suspect, a little bit skeptical of it at the moment. He's taken a lot of damage in his young career. He has good heart and he has good fight IQ, which help him out a lot, but he's getting hurt more and more lately, so it's just something to watch out for. For Kelvin Gastelum, it's the grappling tendencies that we talked about before. Also, just general poor fight IQ on the mat. I think he overrates his BJJ quite a bit. Clinching up with Jacare, really unnecessary. Shooting on Izzy when he had him hurt. When he had him hurt with a head kick, he shot on him. And just, playing in the leg locks with Jacka Manson. Yeah, just, I don't know. Also, the lack of discipline perceived on my behalf. I don't think he wants it that badly, to be honest. He really should be at 170. Now he has to fight these killers at 185. If he's not willing to diet or, put in the extra yards in a training camp, in a weight cut, then, how badly does he want it? But then he puts on these fucking crazy performances like the one versus Izzy, where he, went to the death pretty much. But also, in the 5th round, Izzy kind of dominated and showed him he really wanted it. So yeah, I kind of have a question mark around. He's obviously a really tough guy and he's got a ton of heart, but is he willing to push himself that extra mile to get ahead? Not 100% sure. Alright, so past to victory for these two. Alright, so for Whittaker, look to stick and move. Keep him, just play the matador pretty much. Feint just to slow the forward pressure a little bit. Lead leg low kick, as I said before. He doesn't check them. Constant jab, against the predictable movement of Gastelum. He's going to be coming forward pretty much in a linear fashion, so the jab's always going to be there. But also mix in your own takedown attempts just to mix it up and make him think about something else. Alright, so for Gastelum, look to feint a bit, because as I said before, he does bite on feints, but, the kind of feints that Gastelum throws, I think they lack a little bit of commitment and also variety. He doesn't really commit to his feints like a Darren Till would, and also the feints they're always the same. So Whittaker will get the read on that. He's got very high fight IQ, I believe. So I think he'll get the read on that pretty quickly. Also look to slip the jab when Whittaker throws it, and then throw that too. Talked about that before. Mix in your own takedown attempts. Definitely look to mix in your own takedown attempts. Don't just be totally one-dimensional. Look for your boxing, your left hand. Definitely look to... He's got very good angle wrestling, but, just to mix it in, that's good enough. But also, kick Whittaker's lead leg, with the lead leg low kick. He doesn't really have that in his arsenal, but if he could, then I think he should kick the lead leg, because Whittaker doesn't check them either. Alright, so how I see this fight playing out. I try to take off the bias sunnies for this one, because Rob is one of my favourite fighters. Obviously, coming from Australia and repping Australia as hard as he does, I love it. But I try to take, an objective approach, and I think I did. Just let me know if I didn't. Excuse me. But overall, I think it's a good matchup for Rob. It isn't too different of a matchup against Gastelum than it was against Paulo Costa, so he's now just facing a southpaw pretty much who's a little bit smaller. Gastelum's going to come forward, not mix it up a whole lot. He's not going to throw too many feints. Whittaker's, kind of made a career out of putting those guys away. The guys that just come forward, don't mix it up too much. Rob has a lot of experience versus southpaws. I think the southpaw versus orthodox dynamic favours Rob on the feet. I think his last two opponents have been southpaws. I think Cannonier and, what's his name? Till have been southpaws. And Adesanya mixes it up a bit. Who was before Adesanya? Romero is also a southpaw. Who was before Romero? Is it Jacare? It doesn't matter. But he's versed a lot of southpaws recently. And I think it opens up the rear leg offense for Whittaker, which is, very good for him. That's what he likes to throw often anyway. Also makes the single leg easier for Kelvin if he wants it. It's right there pretty much. He's got that wide base as well. But, Rob is very good at managing range. He has excellent defensive grappling as well. I think the leg kicks will add up for him. I think Kelvin will need to address that sooner or later. Also, if he starts beating up the lead leg, gets Kelvin really concerned about it, starts going inside to the lead leg a few times, and then throws it up high, I think he could definitely catch him with that. I think Rob kind of, styles in him a little bit. I think Gastelum can definitely make it competitive, as he always does. I think Gastelum needs to knock him out to get the W, though. I think he's just going to get outpointed on the feet. And Kelvin does have the power to knock him out, definitely. And, I do have my reservations about Rob's chin at the moment. But I don't think he wins a decision very often. I think Whittaker has too much variety. He'll switch it up if it isn't going his way, if Gastelum is getting some momentum. Whereas Kelvin Gastelum, I don't think he has the same ability to switch it up and go to plan Bs and Cs and all that. I think just at the end of the day, I think Whittaker's a much better fighter. Kelvin's record, if you take a step back at it and look at it, it's not very good. It's not very impressive, and I'll pull it up here. Alright, so we got Heinisch, isn't the level of Rob or anything close. Hermanson, good fighter, and subbed him very quickly. I think, Jack capitalized on a mistake there from Gastelum, and that's why it was finished so quickly, but still, I think that's a very even fight when those guys do fight 10 times. I think it goes 5-5, maybe 6'4" to Hermanson. Darren Till, good fighter. Darren pretty much styled on him. It wasn't close. It wasn't a split decision. Adesanya, it was a close fight, so that was probably his best fight in my opinion, even though it was a loss. But then again, even in the 5th round, Adesanya really showed him who wanted it more. Jacare, I think he's lost like 4 in a row now, and Jacare took him to a split, and a lot of that fight was on the feet. Bisping retired pretty much immediately after. Weidman, who's pretty much shot at the moment, but still just out-grappled him the whole time. Belfort, he was washed at that point. Kennedy washed at that point. Hendricks washed at that point. Magny, that was a decent fight. That was a decent performance from him. He really showed his cardio very well. And then, it's actually pretty decent from there on. But, his record, just standing back from it, isn't as impressive as you'd think it is. So Kelvin is very hard to put away, but if Whittaker lands that flush head kick, I can see him definitely putting him out with that one, and I can see that landing for sure. So let's have a look at the lines, and I'll give my prediction. So the prediction is Whittaker by TKO, okay, round 2. I think he gets the reads pretty quickly and finishes him with one of the high kicks. Alright, so what are we looking at? So Whittaker's quite a sizable favourite. I think it's like 70% fave. I think he's even a little bit more than that, maybe. I think he wins this 75% of the time. But I'm not rushing to bet him though, because I do have my concerns about his chin, and Kelvin does hit hard. So I'm not going to bet him. If you're going to bet Kelvin, I guess his KO line's probably going to be similar to his money line, maybe. If Kelvin Gastelum KO is like $5, then maybe that's the play. But, if Whittaker gets like $1.55, then I'll play him. I don't see him getting to that price, but I'm not really interested in playing Gastelum either, unless he gets like $4.50 or something crazy like that. So yeah, I think it should just be a good fight. I'm not really looking to bet this one. I'd probably just watch it for entertainment purposes.